Hey you guys, Danny here, and welcome to part 2-ish of the Game of Thrones Tarot review. So this is basically just musings of a fan. This is something that I kind of went in depth in because it was just fun for me. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you. So when I got this tarot about 2 years ago, I grabbed the guidebook and I was like, we're doing this. I sat down, I read through it. I even made, I even made notes. Like you can see, like I wrote all kinds of stuff in the margins about a lot of it had to do with hidden characters, what I like to call hidden characters, or like a little nod or two to characters that maybe we might not actually see in the card, but we get a vibe from, right? Like we think of these. So before I start, I just want to say that there might be spoilers, so if you are in the middle of watching Game of Thrones or you haven't seen it yet and you really want to watch it, not only does the guidebook have spoilers, but like some of the cards themselves have spoilers. I'm going to talk about some spoilers, so spoilers. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So let's just kind of dive in. Where to start? Okay, how about I start with, I have no plan, if you can't tell. Sorry, it's kind of late. My eyes are tired. Okay, let me start with this. How about we talk about how the guidebook is set up. I just want to read one of the major arcana and one of the minor arcana only as it pertains to what's in the card. So as a fan, that's kind of what I was wondering. That's what I wanted to know, right? So I was like, well, what do they have to say about who's on the card, or what scene is on the card, or what it's supposed to mean as it pertains to the show? And I say the show because HBO deals with the show more so than the books. They kind of deviate a lot. So if you haven't read that, that's kind of why I'm saying the show. That's what I'm focusing on. Anyway, that's what I was interested in. I wanted to see who, why, when, where. That was most interesting to me. So I'm going to do a sample of that for you. I'll read one major, one minor, so you can see the difference. And yeah, let's start there. Okay, so the major that's on top right here is the Hermit. So we have Bran here and the Raven, the three-eyed Raven, which you can kind of see the three eyes. This is not going to focus because, you know, life. Anyway, so, okay, we get a big spiel about our majors. It's really nice. Now we have some keywords here. This is about the card, the art, I will say. Then we have the upright meaning, some additional keywords for the majors, and then the reverse meaning. So, about this. So it says, Bran Stark and the three-eyed Raven are the Hermit, the card of spiritual journeying. As a warg, Bran can enter the minds of animals and humans and has the sight, visions of the past, present, and future. On his wrist perches a three-eyed raven, the form taken by a mysterious hermit who communicates with Bran through his dreams, and whom Bran eventually becomes. The raven is you, reveals fellow visionary Jojen Reed. The tarot hermit traditionally travels a lonely path, but he has hope and a light to guide him, symbolized by the lantern. The hermit follows his calling to truth, just as Bran is called to the sacred weretree to meet his mentor and discover the truth of Jon Snow's parentage. The card number 9 stands for oneness, intensity, and realizations. So you can see how it ties in as to like, this is Bran. This is why. That I truly appreciated. Again, as a fan, that's what I wanted to know. That was what was so important. Like, I want to know why you chose it. I know why I would have chosen it, but I just wanted to hear that. So I was really happy with the way that Liz Dean and Craig Koss really took everything into consideration when doing this. So that was how they wrote the majors. The minors, I'll just pick the first one on here, which is the Two of Swords, my favorite minor. So let's see. Two of Swords. Where are we at? Oh, and I didn't mention this in the first walkthrough, but our suits are just a tad different. We have the swords, the cups, the coins, and then the spears. So the wands are the spears. That's the only thing that's really different. I mean, it's not that really different. Okay, so minors. You can see we have, it's not gonna focus again. We have the little bitty picture. This is the description. This little bitty thing is the description of what's on the card. Keywords, upright, and reverse meaning. And, well, let me read it first. There we go. So we have Arya Stark before the House of Black and White holds needle and the wooden sword she's trained with. So we have needle and the sword she trained with. You can see she's in Bravos. She's in front of the House of Black and White. So that's it. The description doesn't have anything to do with tying it to the character or the show, which is fine. I'm fine with that. But this is why they needed a bigger book. Like, I can appreciate that they wanted to keep it small, and aesthetically it's super neat because I can almost imagine someone having this on their person, right? Like something that could maybe fit in someone's, you know, clothing or in their cloak or something that they would maybe pull out. So like aesthetically I get it. But like, couldn't we have had a bigger version where you could have actually like, I'm not asking for a full-on, like, we chose this because it was blah, 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 blah. Like, we don't need a novel, but it would have, A, been easier to see, and B, just would have been nicer to maybe expand slightly, like, maybe 2 sentences instead of 1. Like, I would be down with that. But yeah, I mean, we got it, right? Even if they would have done just like the majors, like, just continue that throughout. Again, I get the aesthetics of it. Beggars can't be choosers because, I mean, this card stock, though. You can't be too mad. So that's kind of the layout. And like I said, I really appreciate that they did describe it in some way, shape, or form. Because I feel like in some instances, you know, we get these tarots and we have this really great imaginative art and no description as to why. Like, I know we use our intuition and we get down to the nitty gritty, and I mean, I read intuitively anyway. So like, yes, these true meanings, these traditional meanings, I'll say that. These traditional meanings, of course, are always in the back of my head. I've been studying this for years, but I always read intuitively, so like I appreciate just really interesting art. However, sometimes I just want to know the creator's why, because I want that to, I don't want it to manipulate what I'm saying, but I'm one of those people, okay? Like, I'm just one of those people, like, I want to know. I got questions, you know what I mean? Like, that is the sum of my personality, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I got questions. So, yeah. Sorry, I had to take a sip. So even just the slightest little, like, this is kind of why I'm down. I am down, because it could be worse. They could have had nothing. So, thank you, Liz Dean. Okay. So, second thing I'm going to bring up, matter of fact, when I said in the walkthrough that they used the same characters kind of over and over again, Barb said, you know, I don't mind that because we both have, like, we all are not just one card, right? So we all have different sides of our personality. And I thought that is absolutely right. I 100% agree. Again, I understand both sides of this in the sense that, yes, I'm a huge fan. I love the books. I love the show. I love all these characters. There's so many different personalities and scenes that can fit and flow. So yes, I would have liked to have seen a few other people just kind of like thrown in there. But I also understand the flip side, which is like, this was created at a specific time, so it was kind of leading up to where we are. Maybe not the last season. Well, was it? I don't know. Anyway, but it's pretty far advanced into where we are now. So I can understand why they wanted mostly the main characters. For the people who maybe aren't huge fans, they just kind of follow the main people and maybe wouldn't be so... They just really couldn't peg some of the smaller characters, maybe, you know? So, like, I get both sides. But a perfect example of having two sides of every person, I just wanted to show these because I thought this expressed it very well. So we have Jon Snow. One is the Emperor, and one is the King of Cups. But I feel like these are two totally different Jons, right? So we have Jon of the Night's Watch here. We have the black cloak, we have the fur. He's got nothing on his armor. It's snowing. You know, plain good-hearted Jon. But then we have the Emperor. And, like, this is, like, I've been brought back to life. I'm tired of your bullshit, Jon. You know what I mean? We have the Stark. You know, he basically took up King of the North. He's got his sword. He's got this red cloak. These are two totally different aspects. So I appreciate that there was thought going into how they were going to portray, like, you got the same character for two pretty big men, right? So, like, I feel like you gotta show some difference, and I thought that they really did a good job with this. Another one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, okay, so maybe 3. Okay, I'm finding it, hold on. I thought I was prepared, but this just popped into my head, so we're gonna go with that. Here we go. We got that, and I think the other one's here. Okay, so we also have two different sides of Eddard. We have the one who was sort of forced to be the hand of the king. He's got a lot on his plate. He's speaking of justice. He's kind of... I don't know if I'd describe him as, like, in a bad spot, but sort of. Like, his hand was forced at this, and then he took it, like, way too seriously. So he was very much in turmoil here. But then we also have the King of Spears, which is, like, I feel like he embodies a little bit more, because this is back when he was at Winterfell. And just a little more... I don't know. A little more... free, a little more calm and thoughtful. And I mean, that's crazy for, like, the King of Spears. You know, you think of, like, fire and passion, but at the same time, he did have that for Winterfell. So, like, again, you see him in two totally different aspects. I thought that was good. Let's go through the little cards that I have to talk about. I know what you're thinking, oh my god, the Magician, that's literally, you just took away one card. No, it's not that thick, look. It's not that bad. So, we'll go through these and kind of talk about where I think about these other characters that might not be shown. Or just because I want to talk about the card, because I thought it was good. So I got some of those too. So let's get into it. First, we have the Magician. So I love Littlefinger as the Magician because I feel like he does really utilize everything he's got. Because he doesn't have, or he did not have, the status, so he had to gather everything and then make himself up there. So I thought it was a great choice. But what I loved is these little extras. So we have the spear, the sword, the coin, the cup, but then we have a raven, we have a sealed letter. We have the dagger that was used to try to kill Bran and that hurt Catelyn that was traced back to Tyrion. And then up here we have the necklace that was given to Sansa, which ultimately held the poison that killed Joffrey. So I loved these little extras. So then we have another little nod to Littlefinger, which I absolutely loved. I love all of these, if you can't tell yet. Okay, so this wheel having, you know, the Targaryens, the Lannisters, the Baratheons, the Starks, kind of on this wheel going round and round and round. Sometimes one's on top, sometimes the other one's on top. It's like a constant battle. But there you have Littlefinger's bird just chilling. It can flitter off to see who's gonna land at the top and then come right back on to keep himself in good standing no matter who's on top. Very, very interesting. I really like that. Next. So, while at first glance, I thought immediately Bolton's. But I can see that this is kind of a hidden character within itself. They even talk about it in the guidebook, and that is Theon Greyjoy. So Theon, we saw him put on one of these ex-bad boys and be absolutely tortured by Ramsay Bolton. But in thinking about it, like, it's kind of genius, especially for the Hanged Man, because, like, I always think, like, there's three things that I think about when I think of the Hanged Man, like, automatically, and that's martyr, sacrifice, and a different perspective. Like, those are my main three, like, boom, 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 when I think about a Hanged Man. And when it comes to perspective, I mean, Theon before versus Reek versus Theon after, like, the perspective from A to C is completely altered. You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge change in character. Yes, it was brought upon by trauma. He was not really a martyr in that situation. However, I feel like he became one. Like, he sacrificed in the end to do something better. And so I think that this does really embody Theon as the Hanged Man. I kind of wish we could just see him, but I get it, you know? So maybe just a little slight hidden character. If you didn't read the guidebook, it probably, it might have popped into your head. It popped into mine. But, you know, I can consider this maybe a Theon card because we really don't see him anywhere else. I think there's one other card that I'm like, Theon, you know? And then, speak of the devil, there he is. And the reason that I picked this one was just because Ramsay as the devil, I feel, is a good match. Not because he's awful, and he is, but because as the devil figure, I always think of the devil as, like, not so much an entity that makes you do something, but an energy that consumes you, right? So you deal with, like, addiction and, like, you know, things like that. And in a way, you kind of perpetuate this yourself. And in many ways, his, what do you even call them? His prisoners, his slaves, his whatever, I don't even know. But in terms of Theon, even, like, he put these things into play, but then Theon was so damaged that he perpetuated it. So in theory, at the end, like, Ramsay really didn't have to do anything, and Theon was there as Reek. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting too. psych, my last one isn't. But like most of the majors was just, I just really liked it. So another one that I want to talk about, we all know I love the tower, but this tower, if there is something, now I'm just fangirling now, because I freaking love everything about this, because this is the defining moment of the whole series. This part right here. When Bran falls from this tower, when he climbs this tower, this is what puts everything into motion. So I thought if you're going to shake a foundation, this is by far the situation that causes everyone's world to be upheaved. So this was just a perfect choice. It was just a perfect choice. So another one of my character nods, I just automatically thought of Khal Drogo when I saw this. Automatically. Because of course Dany calls him my sun and stars. So immediately that popped into my head. Not to mention that we have a dragon. And I always think of the dragons as like their children. And the reason I say that is because like, yes, she was pregnant with his son when he died. And then when the son died, she, you know, walked into those flames, and then the dragons were born, and, you know, so I feel like it's like sort of their children, right? But not only that, if she would have never been kind of, I say she was like sold into marriage, if we're being honest, but I feel like if she was never married to Khal Drogo, she would have never gotten the dragon eggs, or even if she did, like, she would not have been able to bring life to these dragons. So I always think of Khal Drogo as the sun card. So my next one, this is just kind of like a missed opportunity to me. So the Three of Swords, I mean, we have the Flaming Heart of R'hllor, right? It's Stannis Baratheon. After he met Melisandre, he adopted this R'hllor, the god of light or fire or something like that. And then we have the sword, oh, Brienne has it, from Jaime Lannister. I forgot the name of it. Shame on me. What is the name of it? Oathkeeper, of course. My bad. Oathkeeper here, because she stabbed Stannis Baratheon. And like, yeah, okay. But when I'm thinking of like pain and suffering and grief and like matters of the heart, like, yes, a heart, Stannis Baratheon, whatever. But like truly thinking about this card, man, the Starks though, like really, if someone has grief and pain that you, at least I, feel for, it's the Starks. They deserved this. I just really feel like, I don't know, like the Three Swords stabbed into a direwolf, or maybe have ice right here. I mean, is it really that distinct? I don't know. Or like you could have even had it melting, because didn't Joffrey like melt it down to make a different sword? I don't know. Anyway, so this was just like, hey, it's really nice. However, it could have been better. I wanted a Stark reference with this Three of Swords. I really did. I kind of waited for it. Okay, this next one is the Four of Swords. Now this one I picked simply because the idea of this with these Silent Sisters and the laid out body, we only saw 3 different people, and then I'm like doubting, like, did we see Robert Baratheon laid out? Like, did we see him laid out? We saw Jon Arryn. We saw Tyrion Lannister. I don't remember if we saw Robert Baratheon, but like, or was he the old god, so maybe he didn't? I'm doubting myself now, I don't remember. Anyway, it's been a long time. I need to rewatch. Anyway, when I see this kind of death scene, those are the 3 characters that I really think of. So I feel like, in a way, this kind of speaks of what happened to them because they were like taken care of by the Secret Sisters. Okay, so maybe just 2, because I can't remember Robert anymore. My little mind escapes me, but you know what I mean. So that's kind of what I thought about there. Then, here's the other one that I thought of Theon, and that is the Five of Swords. Now, this is also the only other card that reminds me of Rickon, because we don't see him anywhere else. I mean, we don't even see him here. This is Bran, when he handed over Winterfell to Theon, but like, it still invokes that memory because, of course, that's when they were taken and killed and hung up for Winterfell to see. So, like, if there's gonna be something that reminds you of Rickon, it would be maybe this one. And the Ten of Cups, but we'll come to that. The next one I just thought was perfect, in a sense that if I had to pick a scene for the Eight of Swords, I would have picked this scene. And that is Brienne of Tarth wrapped around this tree. She's got all these swords around her. And it's like, again, like if I would have chosen this same scene. Just because I feel like Brienne is like this badass warrior, right? She is strong and she's got that spunk in her. I feel like when she and Jaime got captured, like, there's still a part of me that's like, Brienne could have demolished these men. You know what I mean? But then she started to doubt herself. She, like, really got into her head at this time. You know, they're tied to this tree. She's got all of this inner turmoil, and she kind of let all that keep her in her head instead of, like, getting herself out of there as fast as she could. So this was just one of those, like, if I would have chosen the same thing. So, good on that. The next one. I'm going to talk about something kind of graphic next, because we have the Nine of Swords. So this is the only time we kind of think about Robb Stark. And because that's Grey Wind in here. And if you're talking about nightmares, like, holy fuck, like, this was a nightmare. When they cut the wolf's head off and paraded him around with just the dead body, and it was horrible. It was awful. So, Nine of Swords, absolutely a nightmare. And the only kind of nod to Robb Stark. But I'm going to mention something here because we're talking about wolves. Something that kind of bugs me just as a fan, and this is just my thing, like, let me know what you think. Okay, so I feel like the Starks, especially, you know, at the beginning, they talk about how, oh, look, we found these dire wolves and there's one for every kid, and like, they kind of become tied to these wolves. So Robb and his wolf were killed together. Arya, her wolf kind of gets lost. In the book, we see something like coming back. Okay, but I'm not gonna get into the book. Okay, that's just totally different. Anyway, Arya's wolf is lost, but then Arya gets lost, right? Rickon, Ramsay Bolton, if I'm not mistaken, kills the wolf and then kills Rickon. So again, they die together. Jon still has his wolf, but Sansa, Eddard supposedly killed her wolf. And I have a really big issue with that. Like, I'm not saying that Sansa hasn't gone through some horrible shit, because she has. But, like, I still feel like the wolf is... Oh, and then Bran. Of course, Bran is with his wolf. He can actually get into his wolf. So, he's still tied to his wolf. But, like, Eddard killed Lady. He killed Sansa's wolf. So, like, I just feel like it just doesn't feel right to me. And then my little brain goes, and I'm like, well, but did he? Like, did he actually kill her wolf? We never saw the wolf. We heard it. And like, I don't know. Like, I really feel like he did, but it just bothers me. Like, it just doesn't flow with the story, right? I don't know. That's just my little thing. I want to know your thoughts on that. Anyway, moving on, we have the Ace of Cups. So, of course, Joffrey. This is the culprit that did it. So, of course, I think of Joffrey when I see this. So there's my hidden character for that one. But also Marjorie Tyrell, which I'm kind of sad that she was not shown. And I'm going to show another one that, like, again, it was going to be one of those missed opportunities. Oh, this next one. I love this. This is Tyrion and Greyworm, and oh, I always say her name wrong. I'm going to read it so I don't butcher it, because I always feel like it's just one step away from me. Masindi, is that it? Is that how you say it? But anyway, you have these three new friends, and they're here. Is this still in the pyramid? Is it Marine that they're in? I can't remember. Anyway, so they're in here, and it's like these three unlikely people in the same room, and they get to talking about jokes. And, like, Greyworm doesn't understand the concept of this. Like, you just say this to have fun and laugh. Like, there's no purpose to it. And it's like you just see them becoming a unit and becoming friends and just, like, creating this, I don't know, this little group, and then celebrating their strangeness. And I absolutely love this card for it. Like, every time I see it, it like makes me smile because it's a favorite scene of mine. So there's that. Okay, this kind of bugs me only because I don't know if I'm just trying to read too deep into it or if it's something that I'm missing. I want to know your thoughts. So in the book, let me see, let me pull it up. Okay, let me read you what it says. So, okay, of course, this is the Ten of Cups. You can kind of even see that they did almost like rainbow colors. It's hard to see because the scene is so dark. But then we have the 10 cups, and it says, 10 candles burn in the cozy bedchamber of Eddard and Catelyn Stark at Winterfell. Each cup represents a member of their family. So, here we go. Eddard, Catelyn, Robb, Bran, Arya, Sansa, Rickon, Jon Snow, 8. Who are these two? Like, are they supposed to represent 2 other people? Am I missing somebody? Like, the only thing I could think of was, like, Starks, Benjen, Lyanna? Who am I missing? Am I missing somebody? Or am I just reading too deep? It just meant like, oh, this just encompasses all the family, but it said each one. I need to know. So, theories? Do you think it's Benjen? Do you think it's Lyanna? Like, what? I don't know. It has me very curious. I don't know why it bugs me so much, but it does. I need to know. Oh, so the next one. So this is really just a garden of the Red Keep. What is it, like the Arboretum maybe or something like that? But when I see this, I think of 2 separate events. One, I remember the Red Viper, and it kind of like reminds me of that. The Red Viper and, I can't think of her name, the Sand Woman. I kind of think of them coming into King's Landing. But I also think about when Sansa and Marjorie Tyrell and Alina Tyrell are sitting in the garden at the Red Keep. I always think about this. And seeing the 4 spears and thinking about that like stability and kind of building a foundation, I always think about how they like brought her in there and they were like, how are you doing? What do you think about Joffrey? don't feel like you have to pretend. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna make sure everything is okay. Maybe you'll marry my brother. You know, they kind of take her in and kind of create that new space with her. So I kind of also think about them with this card. But it also, like I said, gives that nod to the Red Viper, which otherwise is completely not in this deck. Another one that I'm like, what are we talking about here? So I'm going to pull this one up and read this to you. Let's see. Okay, so this says, get it right here so you can really see. A man transports 10 lances at a King's Landing tourney. Banners fly for the house Arryn, Lannister, and Stark. Arryn, Lannister, and Stark. No Arryn, no Lannister, but a Stark. This right here is a Clegane banner. So for this, I'm thinking the Mountain, the Hound. So we do have like our hidden characters there. Especially the Mountain, because I feel like him in that tourney was like really big, but so was the dog. So I guess the Hound as well. In the very, very back, you can barely see that, and it's probably not going to show because of my face. But there is a banner that might be a Lannister. It might be a Lannister, but it's barely visible. So I just think that maybe they were gonna put it in there, but didn't. But we do have a reference to the Cleganes. So there's that. And then this, of course, Jack and Hagar. The coin that he gives to Arya and tells her to say, let me see if I can remember, Valor Morgulis? Is it Morgulis? Valar Morgulis? Something like that. So I think of him. Oh, but here I think of the Hound too. This is Septon Ray, where they're like building that community, right? And there's a man in here that's like really big. Like he's like bigger than everybody around. At least that's what it looks like to me. And so I imagine that to be the Hound in there. Oh, and then this is another one that has something in the description that I don't see in the card. Where's that? Yes. Arya Stark, blind and begging on the streets of Braavos. Beside her is the wooden staff the waif throws to her before they enter combat. I don't see a staff anywhere. There are broken pots here. And then like this seems to be the step. Regardless, it's not wooden anyway. But like I don't see it. I'm like, it's not there. Maybe it was supposed to be there. They didn't put it there. So yeah, that's not there. But it's the thought that counts, right? Okay, so here's another one. Here's the one I'm talking about. So the 7 of coins. With this one, now these are Tyrell coins. And this is why I'm saying this. So this is just a gardener. It's just a random gardener. Nobody knows his name. This is just a random person. And I feel like they could have put Marjorie here. Because when I think about the Tyrells, and I think about potential, right? About, how do I say this? Like, cultivating success. I think of the way that Marjorie took over Joffrey, right? Like, especially when she was stopping the carriages and going help the poor, and she wanted to take the food that was left over at the Red Keep and like give it to the people who needed it, and she was like altering herself around. She was cultivating this success, especially for the Tyrells. So like, why put a random person here when you could have put Marjorie? I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. So that's just my 2 cents. 2 more left, y'all. I'm almost done. I know I'm trying to keep this short, but I just had a lot to say. Just 2 more. Just 2 more. Okay, my last 2. This one, why didn't they just put Gentry, right? Because that's exactly who I thought of when I saw this, but I was like, no, it can't be him. Just because of the hair and stuff, like, it just didn't look like it. But, I mean, a blacksmith, that would have been perfect for him. Another missed opportunity. But again, just like in the 4 of Swords, where it's like, I think of Jon Arryn, and I think of Tywin Lannister, and I think of Robert Baratheon, even though now I'm doubting myself. But Gentry for sure, right? Like, Gentry for sure. And then the last one, I just really liked, because it reminded me, again, Lady Alina appears to be right here, which I thought was funny because I noticed that yesterday. I mean, we see Lady Alina, of course, in here, but where she's at? Where she's at? See, I had a little pause and now I'm messing myself up. Where she's at? You might have to take my word for it. Oh, here she is. Check it. You can see her same clothes, which I thought was funny. It looks like the same clothes. But in speaking of, you know, hidden characters, again, this is the Purple Wedding. So I'm thinking of Marjorie Tyrell. I'm thinking of King Joffrey. And I'm thinking about that wine. So that's just my final little, like, hey, these are the characters that I think of, even though there's nobody there. But Alina as well, because, I mean, 10 of coins, yeah. Anyway. So that's it, you guys. That's kind of my little deep dive into these cards and finding people who aren't there. Or just, like, little tidbits of who they are. And just my thoughts, just a fan, just amusing this. Oh my gosh. And Heather sent me a picture of the Oreos. So apparently Oreos came out with a Game of Thrones edition. Y'all, I'm gonna have to find these so I can get them for the premiere, just because I'm a super big nerd. And I'm like, what? So they have the like the sigils on there. So they have like the Starks and the Targaryens. I think there's like a White Walker on them. So cool. If I can manage, I'll shove a picture in there. I don't know if I can, but if I can, I'll put one. Or like after, so you can see. I'll snap a picture. Which I thought was so cool. So anyway, just a little extra. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sticking around and having fun with me tonight. I really enjoyed just kind of nerding out over this deck. And if you're looking for me, as always, I got my links below, and I will see you guys later. Sending you all my love. Bye, guys.